Manicheism and Gnosticism. Manicheism had many important points in common both with Bogomilism, the early form of Catharism, and with Catharism true and proper. But at the time in which Catharism proper appeared, this heresy had vanished a long time ago to be able to be considered the inspiration. Page 30. In fact, many of the most authoritative historians of Catharism, Schmidt, Borst, Duvernoy, Morgan, deny such a descent. The reason that the Cathars came not only to be called Manichaeans, and believed to be such, is due to the fact that they were confuted in the writings of Augustine against the Manichaeans without engaging in their real specific beliefs. When Catharism or Manichaeism are spoken about, in general the emphasis is put on dualism, above all on the fundamental separation between two opposing principles, spiritual and physical, soul and body, good and bad. I believe that it is evident to anyone that a contrast between these two spheres that we could call that of God and that of Satan is present in more or less large measure in all the religions, also in that of Catholic Christianity. So I don't claim that dualism is the reason for such hatred. There was quite another reason that these religions were always and everywhere persecuted with extreme harshness. They are religions of the Gnostic type. Gnosticism, the heresy of heresies, is not a religion. It could be defined as a system of values that has travelled across many cultures and many religions, among which significantly that original Christianity to which Catharism is explicitly connected, which is in fact to tell all a Christianity of the Gnostic type. The name derives from the Greek gnosis, knowledge, because what characterizes Gnosticism is the essential importance of knowledge to the ends of salvation. It is not faith that saves, but knowledge, gnosis. That doesn't mean to say that faith or love or good works have no value, but they are subordinate to knowledge. It is a thought also expressed clearly by Dante when he explains, "From this you see that blessedness depends upon the act of vision, not upon the act of love, which is a consequence." Paradise, Canto 28, verses 109 to 111. Knowledge of what? One can also say that the knowledge that Gnosticism aims at is knowledge of God, but there is always need, page 31, to specify, of the God who is inside us. The knowledge that Gnostics yearn for is primarily knowledge of themselves. To see the divine spark that is in us and recognize it as our true essence. From here, that characteristic of the Gnostics is inferred as being, to my mind, the cause of the evil done to them, beyond the ferocious persecutions that had always accompanied them, and not only in Christian circles. The fact that for such a path of knowledge there would be no need for any mediator. What priestly caste could support an affront of this kind? It was the Zoroastrian priesthood that wanted the death of Mani, as it was the Jewish priesthood, the Pharisees, who wanted that of Jesus, who denounced them. "Woe to you, hypocritical scribes and Pharisees, that you close the kingdom of the heavens to the people. For a certainty you don't go in, and you won't allow anyone who does want to go in to do it." It's not by chance that Dante defined the Pope as the Prince of the New Pharisees. Clergy of all time have been proposed, or better interposed, between man and God, and putting to death anyone who advances the idea that man can directly address himself to our Father. More than 1,000 years have passed since the coming of Christ, but still people are put to death who teach us to search for God inside ourselves, such as the Cathars and also Dante, who will come to see God clearly making less of ecclesiastical mediation. The dualism between spirit and matter carries a markedly negative view of all that is corporeal. The body is considered an element heavy and gloomy that holds the divine soul captive. But they didn't torture Manicheans and Cathars for this. The flagellants were Catholic. In Manichaeism, the body has a positive function in that it serves for the purification and the liberation of the divine light that is present in all created things, not just in men, but also in animals and plants, and even in stone and water, for whom the commandment "do not kill" is widened to mean not to bring violence to any living thing. The Manichaeans were in fact vegetarians, as also will be the Cathars. Another belief shared by Manichaeans and Cathars is that of reincarnation, that bears an eschatological vision infinitely more human and generous, not an eternal hell, but the salvation of all. Page 32. As Hans Jonas, one of the great students of Gnosticism, laments, the Gnostic doctrines are forgotten and their written testimony is buried in the volumes of those who have refuted it and in the sands of ancient lands. For this reason, the thinking of the Gnostics, the Manichaeans, and the Cathars has come down to us distorted, misrepresented, falsified, and we not only take it as truth, but we continue to use in their comparisons the denigrating adjectives and the slanderous terms that we find in these volumes. Those who know speak of them differently, and know that our art and our literature and many other things would have been different if the Gnostic message had prevailed. The term Manichaean also sounds like an insult today because Manichaeism was for centuries depicted as a sect of strict maniacs who saw evil everywhere. But it was not like that. Manichaeism, writes the enthusiastic Simone Weil, is certainly the much more marvellous thing produced on the face of the earth in the spiritual history of humanity.